of absence. There is no one, I think everybody's here. Who's doing the minutes tonight? Are you doing the minutes, Dick? Are you doing the minutes?
I can do, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the timer's down. I don't think anybody understood mine anyway. So.
We have to change it from Yorkshire.
I know. I can do them if you want, but if you're happy.
No, I can't.
Not brilliant.
To receive declarations of interest in items on the agenda and any application for dispensation.
I would declare an interest on item 8.
Thank you. Item 3, to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of July as a true record.
I was going to say,
short and brief.
I was going to say he missed quite a lot out. There were several questions there that were raised that weren't included in the minutes.
I did keep the old ones, but I got as much down as I could. But if anybody says what I have missed, because I did go over the questions again, but I've got them all down here still. And I did it to the best I could.
So I would suggest that tonight when we get down to item 6, we refer to the list of questions that
I mean, I can go through again what I've got on the original paperwork, but as we get to that question, because I've written everything down what I thought people wanted, and then I have got the original, so.
So can I have a proposal for that? Second. Item 4.
Sorry, Chair, I'll have to abstain on that. I didn't receive.
Say again?
I'll have to abstain on that. I didn't receive.
Well, the minute shot. What I did was, because I sent them to Jenny, because, doesn't matter why, but she can get it out better to everybody, so I apologise for that, but
No, I think that gone to my old email address, that's all.
it's to the wrong email address.
It's gone to the wrong email address.
Okay.
I think that's this one.
Have you had emails for the main parish council meeting?
Yes, I've been getting some emails.
On your new email address?
I get some emails, but not all.
Is that from the clerk or is it from other people? Because we need to make sure.
Other people, I have made sure I have circulated them by new email address.
Yes.
I think it's just people that have been able to update their address book or just choose not to, just choose to ignore the request.
Okay.
Who's ignored that?
Sorry?
Who ignored it?
I'm not blaming anyone specifically, I'm just saying that certain emails I haven't received.
If you said some people who choose to ignore it, we just need to know who, so we can amend it.
No, you don't. You're abstaining from
You want to stick to the agenda, I'll stick to the agenda.
No, but you just found out a point that you haven't seen the agenda. I'm a bit concerned that you don't know that, that's all.
Oh, okay, and I've circulated the concern to the clerk.
On the circulation that I have, is that you have your email address. So you get, so on the circulation that I've sent out, your new email address, Councillor Lucas or whatever it is, that is live now, so I've put that on there. So did you receive the
I received the agenda. I can't recall seeing the
did you receive the
Minutes?
not the minutes so much, but I sent no correspondence with all the information regarding the bill, new bill. Did you get that?
No.
You didn't?
I'll take that up with Jenny because I did the minutes and I asked her to, circulate.
Okay, it's a bit concerned that no one's getting all the emails.
Well, I'll take that up and I'll see what the problem is because
Thank you.
we all need to be getting the emails.
Yep, thank you.
Can I abstain too, please, Chair, because I think the minutes, with all due respect to Kevin, are so thin as to be
I agree. We've got to put it on the
2018, then I think this is an obvious one, isn't it?
Everybody knows that the business plan is a live document. The trouble with the business plan, it's hard to keep that updated because you can have it back one day and then the next day that could all change. So until we get a bit further down the road, I don't think we need to touch that too much, if I'm being honest. Anybody else got a thought on that?
Can I ask, what was the business plan of? Was it the business plan of the original project that went to the planning commission?
Yes.
I wonder why we're still considering it, because the election made it very clear, not that I set it up that way, I was very surprised to see it in that way, that project has been substantially rejected by the village. If we're going to have a fresh start, then we need to do two things. One is to pull this building off the market, and the second is to withdraw item 9 in this agenda.
I disagree with that. Can I just mention? The vote was for a councillor. Nothing was said about a building. It was for a councillor. I've been talking to someone from the paper about the exactly the same thing, and he said to me, do you class that as a vote? It wasn't a vote about this building. It never was. It was about having a councillor on the council. That's where we go wrong, because we're not keeping to the true facts. A councillor, yourself, got through, which was brilliant, but that's it. This question will decide whether the village wants it or not. Nothing else, this question. I just thought I'd say that.
Sorry, what question?
Well, we haven't got to that yet.
Oh.
It's maybe the question then. Maybe whatever question.
Item 4 is to consider updating the business plan. I think that the business plan, as we all know, is a live document and it changes daily and it can change hourly. So that business plan was originally put forward for Sports England and the Football Foundation and also the wind farm grant applications. At that time, it was a true record of what we had with the routes that we were going to use, that we're going to use for all. And some of that is still the case of some of the stuff that we thought we would like to do in the future if we have another memorial or community hall.
So in your words, some of it is accurate, some of it isn't.
Say again?
In your words, you just used some of it.
From 2018 to now, yeah. I mean, one of them is a private club.
So,
I mean, the private club's not going anymore. So yeah, that is it.
So it needs updating, doesn't it?
Yeah, in time, but not really yet.
So
I don't think we should go to there yet. I think there's more important things to do before we waste too much time on that business plan.
How do we know what we're doing if we haven't updated the business plan?
How do we know what the business plan's going to be until we decide on what the hall's going to be?
Exactly.
So there's no point in doing a business plan until we finalise some other ideas.
Can I also interject there and say that that document is not a business plan? That document was not designed to be a business plan.
That document is a business plan.
If I may, because I wrote it, it was a grant application, and it was a grant application that it hadn't been completed. So what I would like to see going forward is a proper business plan that is not specific to a grant application, because a business plan for this kind of venture is required at lots of different levels. In that business plan, it has no discussions about the running costs, it has no discussions about the management and the maintenance. It was a grant application, and I should know, so I completed it. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm completing it. It was a grant application, it's not a business plan. What I would like to see going forward is a properly drafted business plan.
Okay, so going on to the business plan, yes, you did draft the original. That is not the original. So that's been changed as things change. So that was changed for the grants that we
It was a grant application, yeah.
The grant application.
It was a grant application.
We have to have changed from yours, the original one.
Now, I've seen
This
it.
one.
It's the same document.
So, okay, I beg to differ on that, but, okay, so the reason that business plan was put together was to help us with the grants. Without business plan, you won't get no grants. It worked,
Completely.
grants, so.
That's debatable. I completely understand, I completely agree. But as I said, it's not correct. It would not pass the definition of a business plan. It's a grant application.
That's your opinion of it, so that's fair enough. And yes, I agree, we'll need that down, but I don't think we should do too much with it at the moment.
Did not Tim Wall say that would suffice when he originally?
Tim Wall said it would have sufficed for a grant application. We spoke about it quite deeply. In fact, when we first drafted that document, it was designed, I'm not too sure which one it was for, I can't remember if it was for the Football Foundation or for the Sport England. But it was a grant application. It was a paper version of the grant application. He submitted it as a grant application, not as a business plan. So the recommendation from Tim Wall, and you can go back to him and have that conversation, was that we have a properly drafted business plan.
Well, me, Ray and Tim Wall met the Football Foundation and the FA. They came down to the pavilion and they were quite happy with what they saw.
Yeah, as a grant application,
So
not as a business plan.
if we're all in agreement that that was an application, then we need to consider updating the business plan, needs to be considered writing.
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't part of the grant application. I'm going to make that quite clear. That business plan,
He just said it was.
that business plan was put together because that is how we saw it at that time. So that business plan was put together to show with the way we were going to go forward. That went to the grant. It did go into the grant, the same as everything else went to the grant. And then they
They had all that information when they came.
Okay.
But that business plan belongs to us, not to the grant. That belongs to us.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I see. I know what you're saying. But
What
that
I'm saying is
business
when
plan,
they came, they was happy.
yeah, but that business plan, which at the time was a business plan for how we see things going forward.
Chair, whenever I've asked about the business plan or a revenue stream for this new building, the only thing that sticks in my mind, and I hope Audrey doesn't think I'm picking on it, is that several years ago, at a meeting of this committee, Audrey said there would be no more, but this would be very important to the whole thing, no more than 6 weddings a year to be held in there, 6 wedding receptions a year. At a meeting about a year later, that figure went up to 10. Audrey never saying this. And frankly, that's the only revenue stream, a precise revenue stream, I've ever heard planned for this building. Where on earth the 6 or 10 weddings are going to come from is of course anybody's guess. But that seemed to be a part of it. And it just comes out of thin air. I agree with my colleague here, this is not the business. I don't think I've ever seen this document actually.
Okay. So going back to the 6 or 10 weddings that Audrey may have mentioned, or may not, we took a visit over to Thorney. We went to Thorney.
This wasn't set in stone. We put things down that would generate money for the village. By saying we have to do 10, that's incorrect. We said if people wanted weddings, we could possibly do. We took the model of what Thorney did because we went over there, they explained everything they did, and they said that they have a maximum of 10 a year, and that pays for all their costs for the whole year. We don't even have to do anything if we don't need to, but it's just an option.
I think it's page 4, income and expenditure blank. So you don't know how many they've got.
Mr. Chairman, we appear to have drifted way off the
Yes, we
subject.
are.
I think we've agreed that the business plan needs updating. The question is whether we do it immediately and waste time because we don't know what the end result's going to be from the other things on the agenda, or whether we wait until we know more about what or if we're going to build anything and do it then.
Yeah.
It's a simple question as well, thanks.
Yeah,
Given the law,
we're just trying to answer a few questions just to get the facts out there if we can. So I'm just going to have one more minute on this, and then if you want to have a quick say on it, but so this is fine. We said up to, I think we said up to 6, if my memory,
10.
10, was it up to 10? And we also said we'd do some cinema amounts as well. That, I think that's in the business plan, and some sports stuff and whatever else later.
So given that most of the agenda item tonight, we're going to rely on a business plan, then I would say yes, and do need to write it. And we need to write it sooner rather than later. And that will then tease out everything else for the future agenda items that we need to address.
I don't think we, so we'll take that one anyway, because we can keep that around. So those in favour, can you put your hands up, those in favour, that we update the business plan now?
Can I just ask a question? Can I ask a question first? If it's classed as a live document, yeah, we're just having a question, update it or not update it, but why can't we gradually do it as we move along? If it's a live document, then it can be added as you go along.
It can be.
It's just a yes or no. I don't see how that vote can be a yes or no vote.
Exactly. It's a live document. What I'm saying is, if we need to update it in the future, like Dick said, then we'll update it in the future and we'll gradually grow. I just feel that would be the better solution. Having a hard yes or no to it at the moment, we could add something next week. We could add something in 2 weeks.
But what I'm trying to say is, Kevin, is that business plan was 2018.
Yeah.
Since 2018, there's got a bit of change.
Stuff
like that. So I'm with Dick in the way that, you know, why waste too much time on it now, and we can come back to it in a few weeks or a few months when we know actually are we going to go to the public, are we actually going to build this or not? So I think we should park that for a few weeks or a few months until we actually know where we are, and then we can go back to it, and then we can update that.
I just feel a yes or no answer to that. Then if you say no, then you say we're not doing anything.
No, we will no. So no to do it immediately, so within the next few weeks, or yes, we will revisit it, but it won't be at this meeting.
Can I just make a suggestion then, just defer the actual, the agenda item? Because quite rightly, if we're going to have a consultation with the village, and the village auditors turn around and say, well, you know, no, we're not that, we don't want it in a particular context, then yes, you will be wasting your time.
So if we're not going to update it, I would like to put agenda items 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 to a future meeting until we have an updated business plan.
Because when we're not supposed to go to the consultation conversation, which was before the agenda item would be.
So you want to put 6, 7 and 8 to another?
6, 7, 9 and 10 to a future meeting.
Okay.
Based on what's it?
Based on the fact we haven't got a business plan, we don't know what we're doing.
We don't need a business plan to ask the people. Look, let's just stop beating about the bush. I hate to say it, but I don't know why, but we're trying to get away from voting.
No,
Now, hold on. When you were chairman and you came on the council, a lot of new councillors came on, and I was one of the old councillors, and you all voted, yeah, to take it to the village. That's what we're doing. We're doing what we set out to do. Now, that's what we need to do. We don't need to hold it off any longer.
I'm not trying to hold off, I want to go to the village.
1 or 2 people have been mentioning things, what I see as holding it off. Well, such as the vote for a councillor was a referendum for the hall. No, it wasn't. But you can't. We need to get on, and we need people to get on and do these questions. If the village say they don't want it, then we're wasting our time.
But isn't that not exactly what was just said?
But Steve's trying to knock some questions off, and these questions are going to the village.
No, I'm saying, without the information to go to the village and then take a business plan, what's the village want? We haven't got the facts. Right, do we still have a garden club? Do we still have a wives group? Do we still have wood turning? These are all in the business plan. So how does the village know what we're doing? If we do that. So before lockdown then, did we have a garden club?
Yes, we did.
Did we?
Then I think the horticultural.
No, that went 2 years ago.
Exactly.
Before COVID.
So we haven't had it a long time ago. 2 years, like I said. The wives group. I've got a wives group.
Anyway, we're drifting off a little bit now. So So for the consider the business plan, my proposal is that we suspend it for the time being and we revisit in another month or so when we can get a few of these other items ticked off this agenda.
Yeah, in which case I agree with colleague just to defer the other items because otherwise
We're not on those items, we're on this item.
We're on
If
this
you deal with that, we'll get to them.
So,
okay.
Just let's walk this one out. It's quite simple.
so those in favour to defer the business plan until we're a bit further down the road or at these meetings. Hands up. If you want to defer it.
I think that's sensible to keep it. Because you're not going to learn anything until we discuss everything.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So defer it.
Yes.
Sorry, you can.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for you, and there's 7, so 7, 4, and those against?
I probably should abstain really because I've not even seen this thing. The issue is, if I just give me 10 seconds, I don't know how this committee can be sincere in the eyes of this village in terms of holding a consultation about what the village wants when you've still got item 9 on the agenda. Because it's entirely obvious to anybody that the existing plan, which was, whether we like it or not, and I didn't want it that way,
Mr. Chairman, point of order. This is nothing to do with the agenda.
I was speaking.
No, it's not on, we're sticking to the agenda. You're not sticking to the agenda. It's a point of order.
You'll be able to have your say when we get down to that number 9.
Just going around in circles.
Thank you.
I just don't know how you think you can carry on.
Number 5.
So sorry, I haven't got how many were against.
That's
How many abstentions as well?
2 and 1 abstention.
2
abstention.
Sorry.
You didn't vote?
No, because I just think the old items should be
Is that a yes or a no or abstain?
I stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, to consider future users and how we should consult with them.
Obviously we need to do that.
Sorry?
Obviously we need to do that.
Yes.
We've done a lot of building before.
Yeah. So in the past, when we first set this up, we sat here many hours and many nights and invited all the clubs that were in our business plan. They all came and we all sat around the table for hours and hours, backing out what everybody wanted and what they didn't want, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that worked quite well, so I'd like to go down that same road again, which would be like to send out a letter or emails, however you want to do it, to the clubs, find out who the clubs are in the village and send out and see what they actually want. For a new village.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if I can mention it, I think it's to do with this one. It is partly to do with another agenda, but when I mentioned about questions, I think I did put, if I'm right, yes or no to the vote, but find out what the people would like to see in the new hall. So when it comes to later on, I've got to say it was kind of back. So ask the public what they'd like to see in the new hall. I mean, I'd like to see quite a lot, do you know what I mean? But then you're getting a vote, but you're also getting what they're interested in, you know, what we decide later. I just thought that's a good way of finding out what they might want to see.
So what you're saying, okay, we want to try and...
Well, I'm not trying to tell people what to vote.
So the way I understand you talk, so what you're saying that we need to ask the villagers as well as the same question?
If we're going to send a letter out to every household in the village, we have an opportunity to get as much information as possible. It's probably never been done in the village. So obviously the first is yes or no, but after that, you've got a blank sheet of paper, you can put any question down you'd like to, and then you can assess it when it comes back. So, I mean, I'd like to do, you know, everybody knows I'd like to do a cinema club. I might like to do a youth club again. But you need the village to say, it might just be me who wants that, so you need the village to say what they would like. We might get things that none of us know what to do. You know, a club that we don't know about, a drone club, like, I can't remember his name, Tony, you do. You know, and I just think, when we think about these questions, we need to think hard on what we want to say, so we've got that. It's a once. I've never really.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I can't get.
Can I just say one thing to that, and that is it has to be done in the correct order, because otherwise you're going to top load it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the person to do that.
I don't think we should have too many questions on it.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to lose the answers.
But you've got an opportunity. You have an opportunity to ask the old village what they want. I'm just saying, don't lose that opportunity, because I don't think we'll do this again in our lifetime.
I think also you're in danger of being too parochial here. There are lots of organisations who want to use the hall, which are not in Clenchwarton.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
And we would need to know effectively how we just other. For instance, I've been in contact with a charity that does meals for old age people and has a drop-in centre, and they've got nothing out this way. They'd be very interested in, or may well be interested in doing something in that way. If we've got to broaden it and not just think, because I think that in some ways we're thinking too much down the club attitude thing and not.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think there's that many clubs, you know, that are available, or, you know, that would use it. So in my time in this memorial, this was used every single night, and you know, you couldn't get bookings, but you know, as things go, things change. So I think there's a meditation woman that sort of shown a bit of interest. So yeah, we need to get it out as far as we can.
There's definitely yoga.
Sorry?
There's a woman who does yoga with lots.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yoga.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we get that out to? I mean, I think you've done one on Facebook, didn't you?
No.
Not for the playgroup, area.
No, we use a partner,
You don't? Sorry?
we use a survey company.
You don't want
We use a survey company. I think that's probably the way forward.
So how did that work?
And we went out to the local villages as well as Clenchwarton.
So how did that work? Just so we...
Come on, Bob.
Basically, I was commissioned to put together a survey
By who? Sorry, by who?
by the play group worked by the play area to see what the wider community wanted. You had to do a little bit of cross-sectioning so that you can get some flavour of what was happening in the wider community in and around the area. And basically it went on.
What is the format on that then? How did that work? Just so we get a bit of an idea, we
It-
use that same.
It was done by an online survey. So you just go online, you complete the survey, collect information, collect the
So
data.
how did that get out to the people? How did you send it?
Various different means.
Sorry?
Various different means, different social medias, village
What,
shops.
talking about Facebook?
Facebook.
Next door as well.
Next door?
Next door, magazines, radio.
So do you think we could go down that same road?
You could do. What you've got to do is make sure that you don't.
So you went to Clenchwarton, West County?
Yeah. So for an idea of what activities, yes, but not for a vote on do we want it, yes or no.
Say again?
So for an idea of what the uses are, yes, that's a good idea. For a vote on do you want it or not, then no, because we need to do that for
Yeah,
the
so what I'm trying to get at is that seemed to work all right for what you done for the play area, and everybody seems happy with that, so can we use that same format?
The big difference is the playground is not going to cost the village X amount for the next 25 or 50 years.
We're only asking what they want, we're not
We're only
asking
asking what we want.
You could.
So I just want to make it clear now that we're not doing the whole thing by this method. We still need to to bring the commissioners in to vote if they want to.
Yeah, that's suggested.
You could, you could do something like that. The point is, the agenda item is to consider future users. We've already had Richard talk about reaching out to the wider community.
No, yeah, so you're right what you're saying. So I quite like what you did for the play area. So that was put out to the wider community, that was put out to West End, put out to Town. Can we do, the simple question is, can we use that same format and put our own different questions on it? But it's not going to be a yes or a no, it's going to be, would you use it, would you like it?
I have to disagree with that because this is for our village. I'm not saying to go elsewhere, but I mean, you can't always go by these kind of formats. When we did that format, one of the questions was, do you want yes or no? There were only 51% said yes and 49% said no, but you can't. But a lot of people will put no just for the sake of it. You can't always. We got a good range of what we wanted, and everybody knows that we want to improve the playground.
Yeah, Kevin, the trick is we ask qualitative and quantitative questions.
Yeah.
So one validates the other.
Yeah, but I didn't think on that group we should have asked, do we want a yes or no?
I think everybody knows, we didn't say do you want a yes or no, we probably asked, do you feel the need to grade, and 96.7% came back and said yes.
It was a qualitative and quantitative questions. That's why you write these questionnaires.
If it's not that system is ultra-rich.
It
Yes,
is.
and that's why I wouldn't want to go for the yes or no on that system.
So there was somebody, but somebody went on there and put all sorts of things into that.
Sorry,
Question
what
there.
do you mean?
It doesn't invalidate the result though, because if we're not going to, you'd be stupid if you said, well, we've got 68 people who want this, so we're going to put it on, because that's just one bit of information, among other things, that you're going to use to say, this is what it could be used for. And so therefore, if some people go on and don't put things on they mean, or just play with it, then there's not enough of those to make it valid.
Yeah.
It's not your own bit of information.
I think the valid thing is what you said, Dick, is that we need to try and get out to other areas, because obviously we want to try and drag people in to use the hall if we can. So how do we, the question is, how do we get out to them?
Well, I mean, there are several social agencies with the council, and they produce, especially over with COVID, they produce loads of newsletters and places you can go to. There's a council register. You could quite easily email those people and say, look, if there was a new hall in Clenchwarton, would you possibly have a use for it and what could you use it for?
Okay. Is that something you could look into, Dan, within the borough?
I'll ask, yeah.
The other thing is you could, Rob's contacts with Alive, they should be able to talk to their instructors, sending a message to their instructors about whether they're looking to branch out into a wider area.
That's a given, because they ain't got fixed bone. The actual coaching team just travel around. But again, we are just talking about sport.
Yeah, if there's anybody particularly interested in coming out in these directions, I know I've talked to some people and they say, oh no, we only do the other side of the town, so they wouldn't be interested in coming this way because that's where all the other lessons are. And then I've got some other people who say, well, there's not a lot out there, so that could be good, because obviously they're making money out of this. But so I'm just wondering.
But so will we be.
Well, yeah, but we're also providing a service to the community. So
I know the North Cafe would be interested in using it for their first aid courses, and not the moment because they're doing them online, but the other courses I know they'll be interested because they have nothing this side, everything's that side.
well, we already have to mention ET2, haven't we, recently and stuff. I mean, those sorts of people, they're not going to use it every week. But
no, but they will be part of it.
So is that one format you're thinking, or do we think putting it on the letter would be an option?
I think you need a whole range of formats to
Yeah.
gather as much information as possible.
So the way we did it, we had one format online and we went out to all the different areas and pointed them to that one format.
So you've got one central repository of the information that you need. I'm just curious, David, what did you mean that it was abused? I'm just trying to understand what you just sort of from my information. Just so
You might remember if you just put Clenchwarton postcode in, you could fill the form.
Sorry, say again?
If you put Clenchwarton postcode in, you could fill the form in.
No, that's not. The postcode was to allow us to gain information about where the person who was completing the form, where they lived, and the reason for that was so that we could use that information, take that to the parish council to, for example, to help with the cycle track that's been discussed, because we're looking at obviously having the ability to cycle from here all the way into the centre of the town. And if people are coming from, say, I don't know, West Lynn, and we have the facility to have, say, a bicycle place to put your bike, people could then bike here, and that was the idea behind it. So there was no abuse there. It was just, again, using it in the context of this. If you reached out to people and they said, and you found them, geographically, that you had a bunch of people from, I don't know, Terrington who said, yeah, if you had that functionality here, we would use it, then you're just using it to grab demographic data. That's really nice. So there's no abuse there.
Yeah, so going back to the postcode, so surely you just put any postcode in?
Well, if you want to be silly, then...
Oh, I'm just asking a question. Was anything part of that format where if you put that postcode in, so you Clenchwarton, B34, whatever it is that, can you make sure that person actually lives there or not? Is that...
Not really, no.
Okay, so they can't put any postcode in. So
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at people trying... You're obviously asking people to be honest.
So that's something we have to think about and everything we do going forward. Because obviously we're going to ask a few questions within one.
But you can use that format, but other than going to the houses where you know it's going to be a true reflection, you have to sometimes take some of the formats with a pinch of salt, because you can't 100% say, but you know it's the right thing to do, and upgrading like the play area is the right thing to do. Everybody wants it, they know they do, but you're always going to get the negative side as well. That's why I don't trust it fully with the social media.
Kevin, I think you're getting the two things confused. I think the generalising is basically is asking. Well, the addendum to the actual agenda item is looking at using a platform to get to tap into the wider community to find out what people want in a hall. This is all about reaching out to clubs, organisations. As Richard over there has said, if you've got somebody who's in, I don't know, Woodlands even, and they wanted to come over here to use the facility, how do you reach out to the person in Woodlands?
Yeah.
It's not open to abuse at all. There's two separate things here. There literally are two separate things. I think that's what you're getting confused with.
Actually, I did, because what I said was, if we're having a vote, we could ask them what they can have kind of gone on from that.
Yeah.
So part of that then is that I think we all agree that within that, however we get it out, so we're going to have to work out a way of getting out to people. Not only are we asking the clubs, but we're also asking the people.
Like I
How
said,
they want to use it.
if you're sending this letter to everybody in the village, and there's a section where it says, what would you like to see? Everybody in the village is getting it. It's up to them if they reply. It's simple.
For that question, you can have, I don't know, the 10 most popular things, like the garden club, wives club, wood turning clubs. And then the addendum to that question is, do you run one of these clubs, or are you a member of them? And that way we know we can tap into that person and say, like, are you interested in doing that? Tell everybody and what it's got. Put a brief your
That's far too much detail, because there's no way this building is going to be 2 years away at the earliest, maybe more. These people may not want to be in the area anymore.
The map, if
We are basically asking a wider choice of people, is there anything that we have actually forgotten or not thought of that can actually go in this hall? That's what we're thinking. basically. You can't go any further than that because you've got no guarantees at all.
But surely that should come after the initial consultation. The initial consultation, which is what we talked about last meeting, was, do you want this at all?
No.
Well, wasn't
So
it?
we need to get the facts and the truth out there before we do it.
Yeah.
This is
Come on.
Yeah.
We're doing that with your letter, with your information and your facts.
But we're
We're getting the two things muddled up. We're getting this initial conversation we had last meeting about with all these questions that everyone emailed in, I didn't get an opportunity to email anything in. But if that's what was discussed at last meeting, that's one thing. That should happen before we do anything else, because if we do that consultation and they turn around and say, actually, do you know something? No. What are you going to do? All the other stuff was all wasted.
Well, I'll beg to differ because if
You still do your information.
yeah, but once we're asking potential users if they're going to use this stuff, so I think we need to go down that road first. I think we need to find out who would want to use it and who wouldn't, basically. So I think.
But just one thing, right? I know you can put all different groups what you could do. A blank sheet of paper puts the onus on the villages to write what they would like, instead of forcing them down a route. Would you like this, and this? A blank sheet of paper, there's yes or no, and then there's a blank sheet of paper say, what would you like to see?
That's too broad. You've got to give them some guidance, and then give them the option. So you give them some guidance, and then you give them the option. It's basically both. You would say you can't turn around and say, what do you want? And I write down there and say, yeah, I want to have an arcade centre in there, because I think the youth will love it. It's too broad. What you need to do is give them some guidance based on the information that we've gained through consultation with other halls, other people who've been through this. I've said it all day long. We need to go out and speak to other halls, and I guess I know what's going to happen next. We've already done that.
We have done it.
Yeah, but have we stuck with that agenda? Have we stuck with that list so that we can give them the guidance to say this is the kind of thing that can be feasible, going back to the badminton and all the rest of it. This is what's feasible, but like you're saying, give them the option to go, all right, I would also like to do badminton.
Don't sound bad.
But you know what I'm saying, though?
Don't sound bad.
So you can't go down the route saying, here's a piece of paper, because it's going back to what was just said over there. What you do is going to get a ton of rubbish that you've then got to go and fork through to figure out,
I hear what you're saying, but I personally feel that would be the way forward, but that's just me personally.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just suggesting that you've got to give them some guidance and then give them some
Just to close this off now, so what are you proposing?
I'm not proposing anything, but because, like Rob said, the question said to consider future users and how we should consult them. So what I'm saying is, if you want to consider future users, then you're doing a sheet of paper to every house in the village, so consult them. You either ask them what they want to do, which I think would be better, because if people aren't interested, they just leave it blank. Now, if anybody that's serious and wants to use it, they might come up with something we've never heard of. But if you've got 15, 20 people want to do it, then you know you've got a group of people that would like to play something like Tiddlywinks.
Kevin, we could do that by having an open meeting.
Yeah,
Sorry. We could do it by having an open meeting once we've gone through the first part.
I disagree.
I disagree with that. So we're trying to leave, people just find
The amount.
well, then we'll be back in the same position.
No, hold on. The amount of open evenings we've had, I can count on my hand the amount of people that came.
That's okay.
The getting out to people. Personally, this is we've got an opportunity, but that's just me.
So what we're saying, so we can send every household in the village.
Well, I mean that's not on this one.
That's a bit further
I mean, I'm just trying to think of future users and how we consult them. That's
The question is how we consult them.
and that's how I said.
Yeah, so the how we consult them.
I don't know where it goes. for the rest.
Are we
I
able,
think we should
Listen,
set a
we've
level.
got-
So can we then
Can we
do
just-
this one down to?
you might not agree, but we've got some villages here. Are we able to ask just these people what they think? I'd just like to hear people's views. I'm just saying.
My first view was if someone is opposed to the hall, they're not going to give you an idea to how to make it work.
Yeah.
So they're not going to put anything on it that they want
No.
badminton or they want tai chi or they want this, they
Yeah.
want that. If they're opposed to it, they're not going to give you any ideas to how to make it work.
Totally agree. Totally agree, but hopefully, let's just say we've got 600 houses. Hopefully 500 will put something down. If we get 600 with nothing down, then we have a problem.
We need to find out whether they want it or not.
Totally.
I agree.
Different question though.
It's
What did you say? If people say, if the majority say, no, yes, we need something, but we don't need the big all singing, all dancing that's there now.
But you'll get that in comments, won't you?
No, well, you might do.
But
But
that's
you
their
still got to,
opportunity.
but you can't just say, do you want a new hall or not? Because that pavilion, I think everybody agrees, has got to come down and be replaced. I think that's just a no-brainer. It's what you want to replace it with, and do you want to replace it with something that's going to not be used? If those clubs closed using this, not because the facilities were wrong, because you haven't got the people to come.
Yeah.
And unless you get enough people to come, you're not going to make the cost to cover it. I mean, in fact, the garden club, we used to have 30, 40 people there every month. And when it closed, we've got 6. And that was a real thriving club.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the problem we have now at the moment is we haven't got a facility to drag these people in. So
You've got enough. What facilities for the garden club or the budgie club or all those the wider club?
Yeah.
What more do they want than this?
I mean, other clubs as well as them. So we want the bigger clubs. So how can we attract bigger clubs into the village hall now?
Yeah,
We
but
can't.
if you
So
can't
that's
get, if you
what we
can't
need
get,
to live on.
if you
as
can't
well as
get the
having that.
smaller, if you can't get the smaller ones in, you're not going to get the bigger ones in either.
But the ones that you've said that have gone by the wayside, new ones may replace them.
They may
Yeah, but
do.
what new ones go?
They may do, but
That's
you've
what we're
got
trying to find out.
you're spending an awful
So
lot of money.
again, we're going through the circle. We need to start walking before we run. I apologise.
Okay,
We need
so-
to start walking before we run.
Yeah,
You
I
could
just
have
think
a, you
that
could have a new pavilion,
Yeah.
a new super sports pavilion with a room, a meeting room if you like, and see what if but to do that you've got to know. I agree with you. Who wants to come in?
But also on this plan that we had on the new memorial hall, yeah, 2 sets of people would be able to, at the moment, the playgroup have the whole of it, but 2 sets of people could use it in future.
Yeah, I agree.
So you're opening options for a dual use in the daytime.
Yeah, but you're also opening up for a heck of a lot of an expense.
Yeah. And don't you think that the Memorial Committee have tried that? The Memorial Committee went out to the government and said, let's use this as a vaccine centre, and the government turned it down. So, what does that tell you?
But we don't know why they turned
But I
it
mean,
They did turn it down.
down. Yeah, I know, but we don't know why. If
The
they've
point-
got that-
It doesn't matter. They turned it down.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that they would have made that decision on. I mean, they might have made that decision on parking or location. People walking to the place. I mean, with us being a village, we don't know the
They
criteria.
reached out to the villages.
Yeah.
They had to close down the town centre.
Yeah.
They reached out to the villages. They went to, they come and knocked on the door, and they did an assessment, and they turned it down. Okay. So whether it be the parking, whether it be the whatever, it turned down. So that just tells a story.
Okay.
But furthermore than that, there's nobody here even asking to book it. So
Well, I mean, we have gone through.
But because the playgroup have got it during the day, I should think a lot of the groups want it in an evening. They don't want it during
Yeah,
the
they
day.
want it in the evening, they don't want it in the
Because people, the majority of people, or a lot of people, they're working during the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So they want it at night. They can still use this at night. The playgroup don't stop them doing that.
Exactly.
I didn't say they didn't,
Exactly.
give it as an option. It might not be the groups you've been in who
No,
like
I totally agree with that.
We're just surmising on what we think. There might be people in the daytime that would like to hire all local people.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
But
Very-
we
Okay,
take that
can
market.
we get back on to the actual question here? So how are you going to go to?
Could I just say one thing, Cal? If you went along what you said, which I think is very good, I mean, I think keep it very, very simple, what Rob was saying. Do you want the hall? Yes or no? If you do want the hall,
What do you
what facilities would you like to see in the hall?
Yeah,
Which is what I said.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think that is a very good point.
The onus is on the villagers, not
Tell
us.
us. Yeah.
I don't want the villagers to think we're dictating on what we're doing all the time. You know, there's a sheet of
I
paper there.
don't think it needs to be,
It doesn't have to be massive,
it needs to be simple.
You get
That
for
is a
free.
very simple question,
Yeah,
and it covers
exactly.
everything.
But, I mean, that's on how I thought we should go to get people in.
You can do that electronically, but then you've got to be able to validate it, which you'll be looking at a much higher system that will provide some sort of validation.
Well, there'd be some things you wouldn't be able to put in there anyway. I mean, some things that some people would probably come up with, you know, it just wouldn't.
No, what I mean, Ray, is if you were going to go electronically and do a questionnaire like that, rather than doing it on paper, then you would need a system that can validate your location.
Could you not do both?
Well, I was thinking that obviously as it's going to every household in the village, that's where I would.
Yeah, so I'm not in favour of electronic because I think there won't be enough people look at it. I think if you put something through the post, I think more people will look at that and maybe have some little post box or, you know, take it to the shop or the school, wherever they can drop it here, drop it off and then we can get true value.
Sorry,
With an end date, that has to have an end date.
I think Steve will before me.
See?
I was just going to say exactly what he was just saying. We need to cover.
Yeah.
But personally, I think not everybody uses the computer, but I think we ought to use that as one source. The second source, I think there ought to be a postal drop.
Okay, so how do we get?
Well, I think there's enough councillors on.
But then what I'm saying is how do we capture everybody's email address in the village?
I don't think you can do it electronically.
I don't think you can.
You can't validate it electronically unless you spend a lot of money.
No, but I think if you have an A4 piece of paper with the questions, which are valid questions that Ray has said, send it out there and then we'll see what we get back.
But Dick did mention earlier on in the question that you could use other formats and then get a range of what other people...
Well, yeah, but we seem to have drifted onto item 6
Yeah.
without making a decision about item 5, to be honest.
Yeah. So can we go stay on item 5 then? So do we agree that we send every household a A4 sheet of paper with their questions on?
Right, so
Can I suggest, Chair, we do item 6 and then come back to item 5?
Yeah.
Because the questions being covered in item 6 will lend us to how we're going to do it.
They kind of both...
Yeah,
we can't do
five and six the same question.
Pardon?
You can't combine it.
So let's do 6.
Could you put
Item
an
6 is a
email
democratic
address?
vote.
All right.
Can you
Rather
not
than-
put an email address on the letter so that people can email what they want?
Depends what you're asking them, doesn't it? It depends what you're asking them.
You can't very
If
far.
you ask them-
If we've got a form to fill in, we're going to have to number them so we know we're only getting the ones back we sent out.
Yeah, but if people put their address on.
So if you're asking them yes or no, do you want it? We need
Pardon?
to, if you're asking them yes or no, do you want it? We need to make sure that's completely tamper-proof. Which is like I said, number,
Yeah,
send
so,
a...
I've got 6 emails.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I'll just go back to the question.
Yeah,
To
fair
consider
enough.
future users and how we should consult them. I see what Steve's on about question 6 because it does tie in me personally. But I've just mentioned about how we consult them. I said put it on within the letter of item 6. So it's just whether you want to do it that way or do it another way.
I disagree because again you're top loading it.
Right.
What you're basically saying is, do you want a cup of tea Yeah, yes or no? And do you want sugar with it? You're sort of loading the question. Item 6 is a democratic question. It's a democratic question, whereas the other question, item 5, is about, how would you like your cup of tea? Would you like it, would you like iced tea? Would you like lemon tea? Would you like? It's two different questions.
If you look at
and if you combine it, you're going to top load it.
If you look at both questions, what I should have put is, just stand fire.
Okay.
What I should have put is, right, and this would have sufficed that, I believe. If you forget 5 and 6, if I had put to consider what be included on the voting slip to the parishioners and how we should consult them, then that would tie them both in together.
Let's take it as it says. Consider future users. So that's quite easy.
Yeah.
We can do a survey, the same as we did with the playback, and we can point to it on all the different social medias. We can put a letter in this shop, Terrington shop, Wesleyan shop, pointing them to the survey, and that will gather the information from it quite easily.
And then the second part, which is how we should consult with them. Now, I suggest that we consult with them through the voting slip, which we haven't got to yet, but that's what I'm suggesting. We consult the parishioners on what they want, but we haven't got. It's either yes or no if you want to consult them and ask them what they want, and then you leave that for a minute and then go to item 6.
Yeah.
Which means, do you want to vote?
It's been twisted now. It's been twisted. It's been twisted. Last meeting we had this conversation, and I thought we were going to literally just be talking about the voting side of things, and then we've got these items on these agenda afterwards we don't even need to talk about. The only thing we need to talk about is item 6, which is this democratic vote on whether or not we want this or not. I know I've skipped over. The other question, agenda item 5, is about, we've got the response now, it's either a yes, in which case we're going to consult them, as my colleague over here said, we can send out a questionnaire, we can make it electronic, we can make it paper-based. If you remember, we did it paper-based, we didn't just make it electronic, we did send out the questionnaire in paper-based form. So we can send that out, we can put it in the shop, we can put it anywhere we like, chip shop, wherever we like. Once we know what we are doing, you are literally saying, do you want a cup of tea, do you want sugar with it?
Yes, please.
So, let me just go back to number 5. So to consider future users and how we consult them. We decided how we're going to do it. We're going to do it within we're going to take a vote on obviously, but so we're going to send out a flyer to every single property in the village.
However,
Agreed?
like as
Agreed.
it says,
But let's just go back a bit. So do we agree on that?
No.
Do we have a proposal to say that we send a flyer out to all villages, asking them 2 questions?
We haven't got to
Last question, please. If we go back to the Borough Council, they'll have a list of all the clubs, because we're diverse in here, right? If we go back to the Borough Council and ask them for the list of all the clubs within West Norfolk, then we can email the secretaries of all the clubs saying we're proposing to have a new village hall or pavilion or whatever you want to call it. Then we need to go down that route of seeing what clubs. The questionnaire on paper, in my view, is just for the village.
Exactly.
It's just for the village.
And this is what this is.
That's just my view. The paper football is just for the village. Personally, I think it ought to be a letter. Also, it ought to be electronic. And my other thing is, as of the 19th of July, and as I agree with what Kevin and yourself said, people didn't come here. But if we put it on next door and we put it on the web pages, so we're going to have coffee morning here, as of whenever we're going to do that, then in my view, you've covered people coming who want to speak to you or her or him or whoever, and they can write down, leave their name and address. If they want to speak to Ray, they might not feel friendly to speak to Ray, but if he was here and speak to him in person, I think there ought to be 3 things. But the club issue, where you want the information, are you interested in coming to our hall? Then I think we ought to go back to the Borough Council and say, could we have a list of...
That's a valid point, but if you go to every pub around West Norfolk and then someone say no, how do we know we're actually going to use them? Well, in the future. So And the other flip side of what you're saying is that if we do a flyer for each household, we do it electronically, we do it on social media, whichever, we're not really going to get a true picture because some of them will tie in with each other. So someone might comment on the paper trail, and then someone might comment on their Facebook or WhatsApp. So you're going to get loads of different information coming through.
But that's what you're going to get.
I think, well, no, if you just do the one, and that is the paper into every single tool. But
I disagree, and it's also the order in which this is happening. I mean, what's the order that you're proposing to do this in?
So I need to keep on to
Yeah, I appreciate that, but what's the order that you're proposing to do this in?
Can I just, can I speak? I'm just going to the item agenda again, okay? To consider what should be included on the voting. No. Sorry, wrong. to consider future users and how we should consult them. Now, I've said we should consult them on the voting slip.
Yeah, I agree. So that was number 6.
So,
No,
we haven't got number 6 yet. It just says here, to consider future users and how we should consult with them. Now, I'm saying we should consult with them through an item later on.
Kev, can I just comment that
Yeah.
a normal voting slip, if I was to walk in here, say for a parliamentary election,
Yeah.
and it says, who do you want to vote for? And it says James Wilde, and then a subsection saying, if you decide to vote for James Wilde, what of his manifesto promises do you want him to adhere to? Tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
So what Robbie's saying makes a bit of sense.
Yeah.
I get what Ray's saying, but you're top loading your vote. If you're going to ask people to vote, then it's a simple yes, no, and that's it, and come back later.
I agree, but like I said, there might be quite a big cost in doing this. Hold on 1 second. When it's going out there, Steve, I just feel if you left it blank, what would you like to see in this building? They don't have to sign it. They don't have to put anything in.
You're still top loading it.
You still don't know whether you're going to have a building or not.
No, the word I used was if.
Yeah.
The word what I used was if you vote for a new memorial.
Yeah.
Hall.
But it's the same as saying
What would you like to see in it?
Exactly.
I used the word if.
Yeah, but it's the same as saying if you vote for James Wilde, would you like to see cheaper housing? Would you like to see faster roads? Would you like to see a better healthcare system? And you've got a subsection, so you're sort of selling his manifesto promises based on you ticking the first box. That's all I'm saying.
That's called top loading.
So
And in any democratic
Where
system,
I agree
you
with
would never
Ray,
ever do
you're not
that.
giving them a choice of what
So,
to say.
You're trying to influence the vote of yes or no by saying this is what you could have if
Yeah,
you
but
said
you're not
yes.
saying
We're
that.
not saying what you can do.
You're saying,
It's
do
the
you
word
want
if.
yes or no?
If.
What do you want? Yeah.
Let's get back to the agenda item, which is agenda 5. Do we have anybody who has any proposals that they want to do for that agenda 5? Kevin?
With the glass on it.
I do like to talk to everybody. Okay, the question was to consider future users and how we should consult with them. I'm not saying, I believe it should be on the voting slip. And if it's blank, you're not telling them they've got to vote this, this or this. You're giving them the opportunity to say something. If they don't say anything, then I don't believe that there's that interest.
Kevin, the problem you've got with that is that if you're talking about agenda item 6, we are, because you're talking about combining it.
No, we're talking, Rob, you're going off, we're talking
Oh,
no, I'm sorry.
We're talking 5.
Yeah, I know. So what Kevin's proposing is that he wants to combine 6 with 5.
But we ain't got to stick to
Yeah, but that's what So interestingly enough, we will vote on this, and then item 6 we'll discuss this, and before you know it, we'll have a document that will say we're going to build this. What do you want in it?
Right, what I think we could do then is we're going to consider a letter to residents stating the true facts regarding the hall. Why don't we, in that same letter, put what future use would you like of the hall?
And that's what I was going to, when we get to that item, that was we can tie 5, 6 and one was it?
You can't tie 6.
You can't tie 6 into it.
Right, so just six will be taken out, so you'll tie 5 with 7. I think so.
But then you
Yeah,
you-
5 and 7.
How can you not put 6 in it when 7 is telling them what they're actually going
5
to
and
do?
7 comes after 6.
I don't. I put something forward. Look, all I'm saying is, down here it quite clearly says, how should we consult with them? All I've said is, I've just said it, I think it should be on whatever we send. I'll rephrase
with
it.
a letter.
I think that information should be on whatever we send out to the parishioners. I'm not telling you what to do on the next one, I'm just saying what I think you should put on it.
So what are you proposing then on that, on 5? Tell me what you're proposing.
Let me just word it right first so I don't get it wrong. Right. I believe we should consult with future users, which could be everyone in this village, on anything, any information we send them out, any questionnaire we send them out. And then I'm not saying it's 6, I'm saying we could, when we start talking about 6, we can then say, oh, should we put 5 on this letter as well? I'm not mentioning 6 yet. Well, it does to me. I mean, personally, I think you're asking every parishioner the thoughts. We're not dictating to them, we're asking.
I think number 5, I'm proposing that on number 5, that we put out to the parishioners on an A4 piece of paper, every single household, that do you want a new hall?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And then if you want the new hall, what would you like to see in it?
But we can't say that yet because we ain't got to 6. I'm trying to stick with the agenda. I am. I'm
I
trying
think
to
you should take one of the numbers out. I think you should take
I was
one of
going to
them
say,
out.
I think we should take 6 out.
What about instead of saying if you want the new hall, just say regardless of how you vote, what would you like to see in the village? What activities would you like to see in the
Somebody
village?
might tick no, and then go to that question, and then go, oh actually, I'm quite fancy that. Yeah, go on, tick yes.
Right, it's wording, isn't it?
I'm trying to be as simple as possible, but I'm trying to get it over without going to 6.
Kevin, the only way to deal with this is like you would do in any democratic way. We can get the letter, which is what we discussed last meeting, with the truth and the facts in it, and get that out to the parishioners, all right? Along with that, unfortunately, item 6. Once that's done,
We ain't got to item 6 yet.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Then the consultation thereafter, after we realise the result of that consultation, will be, thank you very much everybody, we've got a vote that's 98% to go ahead, what the hell do you want in it now?
That makes perfect sense.
And that's the path you take. You don't go, you know, who wants a cup of tea, yes or no, and do you want sugar with it? I keep using that terminology because I can't think of anything simpler one. I know I like a cup of tea as well. Coffee actually. And I just think that's what we're doing. We're talking here about top-loading a democratic vote.
I'm going to kick this off, but I'm going to propose that we send an A4 sheet of paper to every single household in this town, that two questions on there. Do you want a new village hall? And if you do, what would you like to see? That's what I'm proposing.
Well, we ain't got to 6. Yeah, we ain't got to 6 yet.
But
But
6.
That is 6.
Our proposal then, we move it to a later agenda once we understand if
We're
we
not
want
moving
to.
any more to the agenda, so we need to resolve the 5 demands.
Well,
That's what I'm proposing.
can I just do mine first? Because I believe I talked before everybody else. Yeah. So, going back to 5, how we should consult with them. And I would like it to go on any future question that we ask the village at the bottom of the page, what would you like to see in the village? I haven't gone to 6 yet, and then I'll say, oh, I remember saying that one day. I'd just like to put that forward.
In that case,
I've got a council proposal. It says here on the agenda how. So, do we want to go down an electronic route, or do we want to go down a paper route?
Paper.
I'm putting a proposal together. I propose, okay, on that agenda item, that we are considering, do we go down an electronic route or do we go down a paper route?
So if we're only identifying future users, then the survey we did for the play park was correct.
So do we want to go down the electronic route, which is part of
So I'm proposing that we do it electronically, the same as did with the play park, because that would...
Yeah. But it's open for all.
Well, we've only identified
It's not
future
open for all.
users, we're not identifying anything that...
It's not major at all. The question is how we should consult with them. Not the what, the how.
Rob, can you just tell me your proposal?
Sorry?
Your proposal, what is it?
My proposal is on agenda item 5, how we consult with people, is do we go down a route of electronic or paper?
That's not a proposal, that's quite a question. So are you going to vote?
I'm proposing that we go down electronic route.
Right.
I'll second that.
Can I redo my proposal, which I've done?
You've got to, you didn't get a second for yours, so you can't.
Well, nobody's asked for a second yet.
Yeah, but you've got to vote on that one first anyway, so I'm going to
Right.
Sorry, this speech.
Right.
Or else we're never going to get off past this. If that's
So on the how, do we go down the electronic route, which...
So you proposed it, you seconded it, electronically.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
because it gets out there.
Anybody vote electronically?
Presume you're voting for it, Robin?
I think it could be good either way.
Yeah, well, the electronic way is also paper-based, by the way, but
Can I ask, this is just a consultation, it's not the actual question.
No,
You're talking about,
this
isn't it?
is purely identifying future users. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which one.
I'll propose that we...
I'm sorry, I haven't got how many were for and against.
There was, sorry, yeah, 2, 4, 3, 4.
Or did you already have it?
Yeah, because I think that
4.
everyone you can get can
Yeah.
do it.
4. Those against?
I'm going to abstain.
Somebody's against?
Yes, same.
so 2 against?
2 against? Abstentions?
2.
What were the votes?
Well, we're going to go electronic or paper.
That's on the 8th.
Seven.
But that's what we asked him.
No, God, that can't be right. I've only got 8 votes.
Council abstain.
I was against it.
Against?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
two.
seeing over there.
As well.
Can
There's
you-
3.
Three against.
Can you just tell me the question?
Okay, let's
Hang on,
start again. Let's
hold
start
on.
again.
Still only 9.
Hold on. I have voted yet.
The proposal is, Kevin, the proposal is, from Robert, is that we send this information out via electronic.
Right.
No, not sending information out. It's find out the future users.
Do the consultation.
Yeah.
Future users, similar as that.
Right. So how many's gone for it? Because I want to get to mine.
4
Which
for
I've
apparently.
already got.
So who's hands up for it electronically?
4.
4.
Against?
Those against?
Right, am I allowed to get onto mine
How
now?
many is that?
4.
4.
Am I allowed to put mine forward now? Which I put first.
So
Am
you've got
5.
5.
2 abstentions.
I allowed to put mine forward? Which I put first now.
Yes, you are.
Right, so which I did, it should have had first, yeah, I think. Okay, so, I was thinking. It says how we should consult with them. I think we should consult with them when we do a future questionnaire, which will be coming up shortly. That is which what Ray said as well. It should be a blank sheet about future users.
How?
How?
On paper.
On paper.
On,
Well,
that will come on 6.
how?
No, it's a separate agenda.
Okay. I'm just trying to think how to... Right.
So you're only trying to identify future users. That's it.
To consider the future users, we ask them when we send the slip out, any slip. No, it's all...
If you can't,
You can't go to 6 yet.
Word of mouth, paper.
No, it's got to be... If we send a vote out, yeah, if we do send a
That's
vote
item
out,
6.
yeah, if we do send a vote out, and talk about that, yeah,
You just
I
said
think it should be on the bottom of any questionnaire we send out
it's not a
concerning.
questionnaire, it's a vote.
So no matter which way, you know, how
we do it, you think that should just be included in that one?
Yes.
Which is
One piece of paper or?
It should, I think it should be a blank sheet of paper and the parishioners say what they would like, what the question is, to consider future users and how we should consult them. I'm saying we should consult them through paper form when we ask them, when we could ask them questions on what else they would like.
Which is
Just one piece of paper so it doesn't get messy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
So you can't.
That's what
You're
I'm
not going to
proposing.
get a voting stick that has all these options on it. We need to do it the same way as the
Steve,
election.
See, when there's a vote, let's just say we get to 6 and we say a yes or no vote, which we did write everybody what everybody wanted on the voting slip here. And I did put that on that, but it's just that we've put this before it. All I'm saying is, you say, if it does come to 6, it's a yes or no, what would you like in this hall? It's pretty simple. It's not rocket
I'll
science.
answer that.
I've already said.
You're asking people to engage instead of telling them what they're doing. You're asking them to put things down.
You're not. You're promoting your agenda.
No, there's no. I've got no agenda.
No, you're promoting your agenda.
Let's put the line on this now, so we're going to vote on what Kevin has proposed. Who's for Kevin's proposal?
I need a seconder first.
Well, I second it.
Sophie second.
Should already seconded it 6 times.
So what are we going for now? We're voting for
Sheets of paper.
Any future questions sent to the village, which we'll mention maybe in a bit. We ask the village what they would like in the hall. We're giving them the option to put things down.
Kev, could you clear that with the returning officer, just to make sure you're not sticky ground? For the borough council.
What you would like in the hall?
Yeah, as on the voting, what you can and can't put on the voting slip.
I could ask the question, but if I'm... Well, I can't go to 6 yet.
Yeah,
But
carry on. Okay, and those against that?
Well, if you think of Brexit, we had a yes or no on that. You didn't say, but do you want people to leave the country?
Okay, item
Top load of
6.
questions.
Item 6, to consider what should be included on the voting slip.
hey, hallelujah, we've got to 6.
Right.
Well, funny enough, quite a long time ago, I was talking what we should put on the voting slip.
Okay, so what do you
Well, actually, I don't think I should talk first because I think some people said, Rob, just one question. Nobody, you know, on questions to go on the agenda, nobody emailed me on to anything to go on the agenda. It's everything I wrote down from the last 2 weeks ago. So, can I just go through this? Because I haven't got the sheet that you've got. I forgot to bring it. So if I just put down what I jotted down, right? So, this is what people asked me to do. So AB asked for a 2-part investigation and a survey. DW, do you want hall, what would you like in it? This, I might not have got everything in on the thing, alright? AW said groups to be asked. Sophie says yes or no to new Memorial Hall. KP said yes or no to, and I also put on that, do you want to sell the MH to fund? What would you like to do in this new bill? So that was the question. Trelene said yes or no to new Memorial Hall. Rob said, do you want Village Hall? I'm going to have to apologise, Rob, but I can't even read your writing on next bit, but this is what I put. It said, do you want to something in Village? But I can't remember what I said. I've written it down, sorry about that. And then, do you want to contribute the money costs? Carl, do you want or not? And that's all the ones that I've written down.
I was just trying to dick when it was first surveyed.
This was 2 weeks ago, Steve, so I just wrote down everything there.
Okay, so Dick sent an email out a few months ago asking all the questions, and I emailed him back the same day.
Yeah.
Where they are.
Yeah, I tried to read it out last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tried the opposite word.
So number 6, to consider what should be included on the voting slip
Could I
to the provision.
make a comment before you discuss it? It should not be called voting, it should be called consultation.
Consultation, yeah.
Right. Because a vote, if you call it a voting slip, then you are bound by the results. If you call it consultation, you're not. So let's say 3 people sent it back out of the whole of the village saying yes, they wanted a hall. We would be stupid to be bound by that.
But we have asked the entire community at that point. whether they choose to turn up or not.
Or it's still issue. Councillor, everything you read about these sorts of things and other villages have done that, it's always a consultation, it is never a vote.
So it's consultation and 99% of the village say they don't want it.
That's
You
right.
can ignore that.
No, can't ignore that. You'd be stupid if you ignore that.
That's what we're saying, isn't it? So of course we can listen to that. So we listen to
It's only a point, you can leave voting in if you want, but you will, you may get clobbered with.
I didn't know that point, Dick, but that's a valid point, so we'll take that out there, so it is consultation.
Even the council one for you is called a consultation, not a vote.
Yeah. Right, well, so what we need to consider on 6 is, what do you want?
So from what Kev was saying there, there's 4 main questions.
I think there's a few more, Steve.
Well, a lot of them are repetitive.
But you've got it in front of you actually, so can you read them out?
The first one was yes or no, and there was quite a few people asked for that one. The second one was, do you want to sell the existing memorial hall to do it? Third one was, so not pay, contributing and costs. And the fourth one was, what do you want in it? So yeah, the fourth one, what do you want in it? We covered that in the last agenda item anyway, so I'll leave that one out. So you'd have 3 questions, which is yes or no. Do you want to sell the existing hall, and are you prepared to pay for it?
I think, I said most all questions. I'm trying to hear about that.
Dave, hold on.
My secretary answered me because I couldn't remember. Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
Dave, you probably did. But
Yeah.
You got your email there?
I can't. Yeah. But one of them was, would you like to see the new village hall, or would you like to see this hall retained and the pavilion done up with a meeting like the lady said, you know, so
Dave, you did say that. I did see that.
who else?
Yeah, I did see that, Dave. Based on what I said on the last question, and I did ask for it, it's a yes or no, but at the bottom, what would you like to do in this new build? I put what would you like to do, but we've already had a vote on how we should consult with them. So personally, I think it should be yes or no, and then at the bottom, what would you like to see in this new build?
That's the question.
There's a leading question.
It's a questionnaire now.
So how's that a leading question when you're saying you're putting the onus on the person asking on answering the question? You're saying what would you like to see in the new build? You're not telling them you have to do this, you have to do that.
No democratic vote, Kevin, no vote or consultation, I should say, is led. Alright? The idea of a consultation is that you reach out to the wider community and you gain information from them without leading them anywhere. You're leading them by saying, in the first instance, let's go with do you want it yes or no? And as the colleague here has said, if I turn around and go no, and they get the bomb, so what do you want there? Well, I've said no, I'd like to see a swimming pool.
So you leave it blank?
No, I've just told you, I say no, and then I go, I'd like a swimming pool in it.
We just send that back.
Sorry?
You wouldn't add anything else in it if you put no. It's a yes or no.
On one side over here, we've got people saying that the questionnaires system kind of doesn't work because you get waffle in it. And what you're saying is completely opposite. Which way are we going here? You've already said, right, we kind of agreed, if you go down the electronic route, we'll get all this waffle back. What's stopping anyone from putting waffle on a bit of paper? If you send me a piece of paper to the door and it says, do you want this new build? I go, yeah, actually no, I don't. And then in the next breath, you're giving me the option to comment. I'm going to go, yeah, I want to see pole dancing. You're going to take it seriously? Are you going to take that seriously?
I think you should do it.
Would you take it seriously?
You can't ask them that in the same question.
You can't do that in the same question.
So I would pause you to do 3 questions, which is yes or no, which you've all pretty much all asked for. Do you want to sell the existing hall and do you want to be prepared to pay for it?
Well, I personally have brought that up first, and I'll get in first instance, and that's what I think I'd like to do.
It's not democratically correct though, is it?
So what happens if 92% of people say yes on a new hall and 91% of people say no, they don't want to pay for it?
then we need to go, as we should do, go out for grants.
Don't what?
We should go out for different grants.
But you,
And so
let's say we can't get the grants.
Let me just...
You're backing yourselves into a corner. You don't
No,
think you're going to
you are, 100%. So just going back to the grants, you will not get grants to cover the whole cost.
Of course you will, because Marshall and Dead Centre did exactly that for
I'm
£1
not
million.
interested in Arsenal.
They did exactly that. You're telling me we're not going to do it? But they did
I'm
it.
telling you, you will
Marshall
not get...
didn't.
You will
Yes,
not get...
They did not raise, or they raised
Let me tell you.
they raised a certain amount of money themselves.
We'd like to send it the breakdown.
I spent an hour and a half talking to the woman, for God's sake.
I'm not
If
supposed
telling me
to-
I'm lying, that's fine. But I did do this with them. And I know for a fact that if you get grants from the people they've got grants for, which I've got a list for, you have to have an element that you put in yourselves. You cannot only get grant money to pay for
Can I just say?
If you are, you think we're off the planet. Secondly, the reason they got the money in most cases is because they were a charity. We are not.
Right. Can I just say, excellent. However, they went and raised that money.
I'm not saying they raised the money,
Hold on.
but it wasn't a grant.
I've listened to you. Can I respond? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
They did get a good proportion of that money from grants. The other money they got was them raising that money by selling the bricks and all the rest of it. That was the proportion that you're talking about, okay? That's the proportion you're talking about, the whatever percentage it was that they didn't get from grants. So they went out and they fundraised.
I'm not disagreeing.
Okay, so
Disagree with the fact that
the,
you
the,
get all the money
point,
from grant.
the point of the fact is you can get a good proportion of the money.
I agree with you.
With
It's fine, I agree with you, but not
the
all of
other
it.
bit has to come from, and
Rob, I agree with you. You don't need to go any further.
So you agree with me?
Okay.
What you said is wrong, then, isn't it?
Okay.
If you agree with that fact, then what you said is incorrect.
No,
Which is, you can.
Steve said all the money from the grant.
Thank you.
No, you can take a potato.
The facts of the facts is that this project will not be wholly funded by grants. End of. That's not going to happen.
Is that a won't or
It
can't?
cannot happen, and it won't happen because that will never happen because you will never have, that will never be a case that we can do that. Never. So, the grants that we have at the moment, which is a verbally yes, is, as we all know, is a football foundation, 200,000 on the proposal that we put this up for sale. That was what came from the FA. Am I right, Dick? They wanted to see.
But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this being put up for sale. It has to be us putting in.
Yeah, so it could be the village hall, or but at the time it was proposed that we, when I was on the parish council, that it was put up for sale to raise that money, and it was all floated through democratically and done properly. So, with that in mind, so that's what the FA wants to see, that the village would actually put some money in. Whether that's sell this village hall, or whether they get a loan, or whether they take some money out of the coffers and hand that over, that some money has to come from this parish council. You don't get nothing for nothing.
I totally agree with you, but just to retract on that point, you've just said that it was agreed democratically. It was agreed by a parish council who don't have the right to sell the building. They have to.
This is not.
They have to go to the public consultants. They have to go. It's a simple concept, but we have to go out to public consultation.
It's not. We're not even going to talk about that tonight. It's
Right.
something completely and utterly different.
I'm just correcting your point.
So bring it up to another meeting. I'm not interested in this one. Thank
But
you.
it's a democratic. You said it's done democratically, but it didn't go out to public consultation.
I'm going to say it one more time. We're not going to listen to that argument. It's for another, the parish council, whoever you want to take that argument. I'm tired of hearing it. I think everybody near us tired of hearing it. Take it somewhere else. It's not for this one tonight.
Maybe time.
It's kind of important, isn't it?
Thank you.
Chairman, you may be tired of hearing it, but we do not listen.
I'm not going to repeat myself. We're not covering that in this meeting tonight. So we move on. So number 6. let's get number 6 on. Time's getting on.
I'm assuming we're finishing at 9:30, Chairman, are we?
We'll finish when you get done.
No, 2 hours.
More delayed.
Right, first one is obvious, yes or no?
So I propose on this information, and I'm gonna go down to
Can I just write these down as we go through?
so I want to go into, I think Dick's wrote them down as well, so
I just want to look at them on paper because I never brought what I've written. I give it to everybody else, but I haven't brought it. So Steve, what's the first one? Is it yes or no?
So there were six people wanted to ask yes or no.
Yeah, it's straightforward, yes, no.
Yeah.
But I forget what.
What's the second
He's
one?
done it, right?
So yours was, do you want the hall, what do you like in it?
Yeah.
you
What was it, was that?
well, David has put on there, would you like a new community centre with a new hall, changing rooms and showers, PC office and rooms for organisations?
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions in that.
Right.
You know, if you want to, so
So you want the whole thing?
yeah, so you're going to put a thing beside that, yes or no? Is that
Well, yes,
yeah.
because that is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then that goes to a question at the end of 5, doesn't it? With what do you want in it?
Well, that's what we were looking at to build. Yeah, that was in the plan, you know, because you want the whole and the pavilion, so that's all I'm saying, really, to renew all of it.
But that's a loaded question.
Right. Do you want to sell the existing memorial hall?
Say that again, Steve.
Do you want to sell the existing memorial hall? You should probably finish that off, really, shouldn't you? Do you want to sell the existing memorial hall to fund it?
If you put that in though, Steve, wouldn't you want to say the reason why you would have to sell the memorial?
That's what the information pack is for. The information pack.
We're going to come to that in a bit, right? So that'll come out in the information pack before any of this goes out, in my opinion.
Yeah. Is that it, Steve?
And I'm prepared to pay for it. And obviously we'll have to put that in the generator 7 as well. As to,
So the fifth one.
Fifth one?
Sorry, I've done 4. So is that part of question 4?
I've only got 3.
Let me just throw. Yes or no? Number 2, do you want, and what would you like in it? 3, do you want your memorial, what do you want in it? Yes or no? Did you not say that?
David
David said that one.
But that's
And then
that's the same as number 2.
And then, yeah, and then I've got, do you want to sell it to memorial? That's the 4 I've got.
You got a fresh bit of paper?
Hey?
You got a fresh bit of
I
paper?
don't want to write better. That's what I want.
From any of the roads before you start.
Sorry. So that's what I've got down.
So you're 2 and 3 are the same. So the first bit of 3 is, do you want it? Well, that
Yeah.
covers you yes or no.
Yeah.
So you've got that anyway. Your second bit is what do you want in it, which is agenda item 5.
So there's,
So-
yeah, so them 2 and what's
So still them 2 out, and all you've got is yes or no.
Yeah.
Sell the existing memorial hall to fund it.
Yeah.
And the third one is, are you prepared to pay for it? And in Mr. Mott's review, there was a table of how much it will cost and for how long, which I would like to
Can we
agenda item 7,
reword the when you're prepared to pay for it? 'Cause that's a bit misleading.
which is why we need to put the
No, it's misleading in the fact that people might just think it's going to come out of their pockets straight away.
because how
I
we
think it's
report
better. Are you prepared for your council tax to increase to pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it makes it clear where their money's actually going to come from. Yeah?
How are we going to do these then? Are we going individually or, you know, are we just...
Individually.
Are you going
Oh, sorry, no, we're doing one, because each one of them, on them 4, Steve.
The Steve says.
Sorry, 3, and then 4, yeah, and then you amended one for what you want on the end, the poll tax, or the council tax.
Well, we'll just put that to the Steve anyway, so that's just standard for
Could I just make a point there, Dick, that you just said, that statement? Wouldn't it be better, because at this stage, we do not know if the village has got to put any money towards it. So how you just said it, Dick, the village think they have got to put some money towards it.
Well, they might have to.
Well, they might have to.
Well, as far as selling the memorial hall, yes, but they do not know that if they've got to, the parish council, if you like, they've got to take money up, so it's going to affect their council tax.
So Mr Moore spent 6 months doing the review to find out all the information, and that's what he came back with, quite a comprehensive table of the shortfall and how much it would cost.
Yeah, but we do not know how much.
Yes, we don't know how much.
No, that would be in the document you're going to send out anyway, won't it?
Well, you
So
don't
how I just interpret what Dick just said is that a parish, if they read that, oh, well, we'll have to pay for it. I mean, that's what Steve was putting through on his Facebook.
I was only putting out what was...
Yeah, but that confused a lot of village people, Steve, because they thought that they got to be paying here 40, 50, 60 pounds a year on top of the
Okay,
rate.
I hear what you're saying. Okay, so in that question, okay, for transparency, right, without trying to be word smart, what would you say?
Well, I don't know, I need to think about it, but I mean, just how it came over, to me it was quite blunt, if you like, that
Well,
a lot of village
you could
people...
change it, sorry, Ray, you could change it so if we are unable to obtain grants for the full amount,
there could be a small shortfall or something like that.
It becomes very wordy though, doesn't it?
I know, I'm just trying to make it, I mean, I think Ray's got a point, just trying to make it a question that's not loaded.
It's David's question again. It becomes very wordy, whereas you can take a lot of that information out, put in information back, and then people with that question, okay, you're being transparent because what you're saying here is it could turn out that, let's say it's just for argument's sake, you turn around and go, yeah, let's get rid of the memorial and get the grants and we're still 30 grand short or whatever it might be, right? Hypothetically, that means we still have to go after increasing the precept. So by giving them the information up front, that you're being transparent, you're being clear, and you're saying to them, look...
I'm not against that, Rob, but it's just how it's put over.
Okay.
Can we word it then so that it says...
So in other words, if there is a shortfall...
Are you prepared to have an increase in your council tax?
So we know, at this moment in time, there is going to be a shortfall, because we know we're not going to go after the grants to cover the whole cost. So we
We are going after grants. We are going after.
Yeah, but we just had the chair say that there's going to be a shortfall.
So you're saying sports England, football federation, so there's still a shortfall.
We just heard there's going to be a shortfall.
Good barriers again. No one said we're not putting grants in. So we're going to carry on grants as many as we can get. Because the less money we have to go capping out to other people, the better it is for this whole village.
Which is brilliant.
So I want to hear that we're not putting grants in. We are putting
Which
grants in.
is brilliant. But the problem we've got there is there has been there's this suggestion because once you start, you can't stop. Grant or no grant. So if you get 75% and this committee agreed that we move ahead at the point where we've got 75% of funds and we just go after the other grants to get that and we just can't get them, by that time we've got a shell, for example, no doors, no windows, we need to get that extra money. The only way to get that money out is to go to the parishioners and say, I'm sorry, we're going to have to put the precepts up next year to pay for them completely.
So not necessarily, you could turn the street lights off for 25 years, couldn't we? Not pay for the electric.
Sorry,
what you turn the street lights off for 25 years, not pay for the electric. We've got 52,000 in the bank. There are other ways of doing it rather than...
Which is brilliant, and if that's the case, we should be putting that up front and not selling the memorial. We should be putting that £52,000 up front. And that we're there.
We're out giving people a choice.
Councillor, just a word.
We have a choice.
Yep, go on.
We have a choice with the memorial hall. We sell it and we get whatever we get for it, which I think is up to 220 at the moment, is it? That's way over the price, in my opinion. So say 250k that's 150,000 we haven't got to ask the parishioners for, isn't it? So this is an asset that we need to use, and that's full stop. Really.
Yeah, but you did say you did say you want to talk about it, so not.
You can keep the village hall as a second asset for the village, and then we go cap in hand to the parishioners and ask them for, if they want a new village hall, ask them to spend £150,000 or whatever it is.
Totally agree. So in which case we go in there with a transparent question of if we are unable to raise the sufficient funds, would you be prepared to have your council tax increase?
Which is one of the questions. Because we keep
I'll
going
just
off track.
repeat my.
We keep going off track. You know, there's a question here that says to consider what should be included on the voting slip to parishioners. I think Steve's mentioned, is it that three, Steve? Three. So there's three. I don't think you need too many more. There's not, but I just need to know which one we're going to pick, because time's running out.
I'll propose that you pick, do you want a new village hall, yes or no?
So how are we going to do it?
I'll propose that.
So I'll say question.
Do just vote on each
I
one
mean,
second.
that's just-
Sorry?
Just vote on each one second and get it done.
Yeah, okay, so who's second that?
I'll second.
Okay, vote for that.
Just before you vote, question. Sorry, but I went through a bleeding question for half an hour to try and get something on, and then we're not even going to even consider it.
We'll only vote one item on that list, one at a time, okay?
We're going down to one at a time. You'll have a chance to have one.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
so we're voting on this.
So yes and no's passed.
What's on the next question, Kevin?
Do you want to sell the Memorial Hall to help fund it?
Right.
Or would you be willing to?
Is that the one that I was suggesting, Steve? So do you want the new memorial hall, yes or no? And what would you like in it at the bottom? Like I said on the previous.
As a leader, you can't do that.
No,
But we just said that we could on the last one because we voted it in.
It's a 10 out of 5, that one, isn't it, what you want in it? You can't leave it.
But on the previous, it got voted that we could mention it.
No,
I'll
on
propose
future agenda.
I'll propose that question goes in, because I think that's a valid question.
Can we just do number 2?
That is number 2, isn't it?
No, number 2 is do you want to sell the Memorial Hall to help fund it?
Okay. So, the question 2 is,
Do you want to sell the Memorial Hall to help fund it?
So I
Should we, should we just wait till Rob comes back?
Anybody against? Passes anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
All right?
Yeah.
Right, number 3. Are you prepared for your council tax to increase to pay for it if there's a shortfall?
Yeah, to come in short.
To cover a shortfall.
If there is a shortfall.
if there is.
Yeah.
Exactly, to cover any shortfall. You can't say, yeah, because the business case either, there's 475, you're 200 grand right there. So there is going to be a shortfall.
The thing is, that needs to have a place of how much.
Of course, we don't know. Yeah. That's why you thought to cover any shortfall.
And what else? What other questions?
There were the 3 that.
Yeah, so 3, Kevin?
So we vote on that one?
Yeah.
Do we agree on that one?
Yeah, I'll vote.
We agree on that one? Yeah. Right, thank you. So those 3 all pass, right, Kevin?
I've lost all to live, to be honest with you. I just want to say yes or no. And I just do. Just need to sort something out, because we're going to have to
Yes, well, we'll see where we go.
I'm sat here, it's nearly 10:30, 9. I could have gone coast today, and I'm talking this. And it's just yes or no for me. Forget all the other thing I wanted to say. I spoke for half an hour on things that I thought were important. It got voted in. Now I want to put it in this one. We don't really want to put it in this question. So yes or no for
We do want to put it in this
yes or no for me.
We do want to put it on this bit, this is where it goes, number 4.
You put yes or no in there.
Just carry on without me for a minute. Because
Kevin, let's go in.
I'm
Let's
not
go in, number 4.
I'm bothered.
It's already been voted in, so it's in.
That's it, that's already been voted in.
Sorry, did I miss a vote?
Yeah.
So, what have we decided that is going to the village? So what question are we...
Yes, no.
Yeah.
Memorial Hall, sell yes or no. Not the right words, but are you prepared to increase your fee and what facilities?
So we're asking all them questions, then? It's not just yes or no.
Well, we didn't vote on what facilities.
We voted on that in
We
part
didn't vote on
5.
what facilities.
We did. Well, you know, so what do you want to see in the village?
No, we didn't vote on that.
We did vote on that.
We voted yes or no, sell, and pay.
We voted for that in item 5.
Oh, sorry, in item 5. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Have you, Kev?
No.
Look, we've got yes and no,
I just want to crack on.
we've got yes and no, isn't it?
Oh.
So 7, to consider a letter to the residents stating true facts regarding the new bill.
I agree.
Yeah, agreed.
I know that.
I've been watching loads of social media and some of the stuff I've seen on there is like unbelievable, if I'm being honest. There's hardly any facts or hardly any truths that I've been actually done. So I think we should go out to the public before any of this other stuff goes out. This goes out first to actually tell them how much grants that we have voted in agreed to. I think we should tell them how much we think it's going to cost, top end. If we get that costings easy from big citizens, it's not a problem. And tell them actually what we are going to do, or what we'd like to do.
Wasn't this all in the review? Didn't Mr. Moak do this?
It wasn't in the review, it was in the proposal for the vote.
Sorry.
No, but the review was fact, wasn't it?
The review was fact, but that was, is now so far out of date that costings are wrong.
Right.
Not our business.
So-
They are way out of date because the interest rate.
So I think we should get our heads together and send this flyer out to every household in this village, because there's so much being on this social media and stuff which is all lies. I mean, no disrespect to you, it's £60.
I'm repeating what Dick put in the summary, alright? So don't start pointing fingers, because I'm only repeating what we put on there, and it is right, public should know what's going on. I don't want my council tax going up £60 a year, full stop.
I agree with you, but you went, that £60, if I'm right and not wrong, it was to fund the whole thing.
You're having a witch hunt now, so let's get back to the agenda.
Yeah, let's not, please.
But no, this is still the same thing, because we need to get the facts out.
Yeah, get the facts out.
Anyone disagree, we're getting facts out.
Yeah, does anyone disagree?
I've already done this. No, none of you can see it.
And not what you vote for.
Because I was going to present it with the other stuff I've done before COVID. Now I'm quite prepared to send that to everybody so we can just go through it. I think you just want one meeting to go through and check the word.
So, given the fact that we'll disagree on it, I would like to maybe have one meeting that's dedicated to that. No, not what we disagree on, just bring it to it and...
Don't you want to see it first?
Steve, what we disagree on, please disagree.
Costs, parking, use, quite a few factors.
So who's bringing up the issues of parking?
Me.
So the plan,
One of the things is the tree that's got the RF on it.
so, yeah.
It hasn't. It's only on for the build, after the building gets taken off.
Sorry, you might bring the trees, so item A2, A21, A22 and B1.
It's
And then come back to the
build.
build.
That's the planning part for the build.
No, it's not. Read it again, thank you very much.
Steve,
Read the planning part and ask.
yeah, Steve, the point what we're trying to make, that this has all gone through planning. There's no problem with the parking. There's no problem with the tree.
And in the planning.
There's no problem with anything. Everything in that plan has been agreed by the planners.
Yes,
They're more educated and more...
And in that planning, in the tree report,
I
so
don't
we
see
need to
why
check
we're
that.
arguing about that. I don't see why we're even arguing. I even what we're even talking about.
But we're talking about putting true facts out.
Yeah.
So that's the true facts.
So the true facts are that that's got planning permission 75 plus.
Oh, can I just cut that one for a second and just ask the question, when we talk about these true facts, are we actually going to see some factual evidence that we have any kind of money? Because at the moment we've got nothing in the pot. We have, the CCP went to the parish council and borrowed some money, and we've used that money and we spent that money up doing plans and all sorts of stuff. And in the last report given by the RFO, we had nothing in the pot. We had no money in the pot. So
I'm going to just stop you there. I think no money in the pot. They should be around about £5,000 in there.
at the last report, there was no money.
I have information that everybody will be privy to that there will be roughly about that.
How have you got that information?
Because there's £5 in there.
Yeah, but how have you got that information?
Because I have got that information.
Yeah, but how?
Because I keep an eye on everything that we've spent and everything that we've raised.
How? So that's in the hands of the parish council, not a council.
I've been on CCP for years, probably know that.
But you've not got hands on the finances because the RFO has hands on the money and they've come back and told us we ain't got any.
I'll tell you now, there's money in there.
That's not exactly what she said.
Well, what did she say then?
She said that it wasn't accounted for properly and it should have been in a separate account, and if anybody had information about the money that had gone in that was that, she would be very willing to listen to them. That's what she said.
How much money did she say was
She didn't
allocated?
say, she just didn't know.
That's nothing.
The previous
That's
RFO.
not
The
nothing.
previous RFO, hold on, and the previous RFO,
Previous RFO.
Okay, so how do you know? How do you know there's nothing?
because we got a report from the RFO
That is
that was.
Well, if there's nothing,
So we're reporting incorrect financial figures now.
if there's nothing in there, as a resident of this village, I want to know where it's gone then.
So we're reporting. So you basically we're reporting incorrect information.
I'm telling you now, there's money in there.
So again, we're going back to that whole truth and facts. If we've been told by through the work of the RFO and Bob Officer that we have no money in for this project.
That's not what she said, second time.
I'm talking about previously. You can't put the RFO.
So you don't know.
The previous
So,
RFO said
RFO.
at a finance meeting, did say there was money, and he agreed to actually put it in a separate account of the ransom.
That was the allocation of the £12,000.
No.
It was a finance meeting, we wouldn't know.
Okay. All right. So that information is not true, is it then?
It's not true, because it was a finance meeting, you weren't there.
Okay, but that information isn't true. That was reported to a full parish council meeting, or in fact it was reported at a CCP meeting. No, that's not even. That's not true. It was reported at a meeting we had in regards to the fund day, and we had no. We literally, after we paid everything back, had no money in the pot.
Who said that?
The RFO.
Okay.
Well, he did what he did, it is minuted that we made a profit of the fund day, so that's an odd thing.
That profit went back to pay back to the parish council.
Yeah.
Right, so the first one to raise was funds.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We did all the work, and then at the end of the day, we just paid the parish council back.
Yeah, it was. It
Why
always
did
was
you
the
pay
parish
the
council.
back?
Sorry?
It was
Because it was
kept a separate account.
it's a buffer.
It wasn't.
No, I know it wasn't, but it was supposed to have been.
Yeah, I know it was supposed to, but it did say it didn't.
So there is money in the parish council that belongs to
Yeah, we
this.
should be in a separate account, shouldn't it?
Yes,
so I don't believe in this, but this is easy to resolve. Let's ask the new RFO.
Yeah.
No, I was saying it did say that.
Every fund day we've made, from yours, Rob, we've done about what, 4 fund days we've made on every fund day.
But we've used money from the parish council to pay for it. We had a £12,000 buffer.
Yeah.
And then all we ended up doing was when we went through the numbers, we sat there and we thought, we all sat there and thought we did really, really well. To get to the bottom of the list, it was, you've actually made no money. It was, well, what was the point of that? We paid, that's yes. If you pull out your minutes of that,
single fund day that I was involved with has made money.
Every
And that's including what we spent here.
Can we go back to what we're supposed to be discussing, which is the method of actually producing this document for the public?
Right, so I would
Well,
like to
again,
have a
based on
separate meeting on it, where we can all sit down and agree the facts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I've got a document you can use to start a document. I'm not saying it's what.
Yeah, well, we
I'm not saying it's got everything on it. We start with somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Kevin, as chair of the parish council, could you please also invite the RFO to that meeting?
June.
Yes, our RFO.
Which meeting?
The one we're talking about.
What, for this?
We didn't range.
Well, when we come up with the true facts.
So you've got the facts, you've then got the financial facts sitting in front of you.
She's
So give you
asking
the
for the
financial facts.
information.
There is,
The thing is-
Ask her to a meeting.
she's, there's no point in dragging her all the way back from our home for that.
Okay.
Because she's already told us that she doesn't know because the account she took over didn't have it settled.
Right, so can we approach the RFO to get that facts?
How
She
she can't get something she hasn't got.
So we've got no facts in the finances.
Well, presumably the old RFO.
I say presumably, we haven't got the money and we haven't. And if she can't prove it, then we've got no money.
Okay.
You know, if I go to my bank and they say, well, you know, come up with a...
I'm sure if you went to the bank and said, I have £3,000 in my account, and they say, no, you're not, and they say, well, I have, and you say, well, look, there isn't any in there, you just say, yeah, that's okay.
She should be able to go
She should be able to...
She should be able to go through that, and whenever she gets time, or whenever it is, but we can get them facts from her.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say there's over £4 in there.
Well, it's 10 grand in
I'm
it.
going to say there's over £4 in there.
It's 10 grand ago. It's gone.
Let's not discuss it any further. Let's get
I never said 10 grand.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chairman, please. Let's get the information from the RFO.
Are you asking your turn?
I'm asking you.
So, where are we?
So to consider a letter to the residents taking the true facts. So we're going to sit down with a separate, whoever wants to sit in there, we'll arrange another meeting on Zoom, we can meet here and we'll just go in that particular item.
I believe that we all need to be in on that, and that's not a lot of the arguing because we'll let all understand the basis of where we're at.
Okay, hands up who agrees that we sit down on a separate meeting to do that. To be arranged. So I'll arrange that with you, Dick, and then we'll send an email out to everybody. Is that okay?
Yeah. Will that be your next CCP meeting?
We're going to do a separate meeting.
Why would you do something?
We just said we're going to separate.
You mentioned that. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
You mentioned having a separate meeting.
The next meeting will be that. Will be for that. That's what I said.
Oh, what you said, what you said was, we'll have a separate meeting.
Like that.
So we've already had a second CCP in 2 weeks. We've got all the other parish council stuff that we've got to do and our existing lives. We're going to do another meeting, another meeting, another meeting.
This is
So the next CCP.
This is right.
You want a CCP with one agenda item. That's all.
Yeah.
That's simple as that.
Well, we have other things we need to discuss. on
Well,
the CCP
we need to get
meeting
this
as well.
sorted.
So that will be separately, and I'll send an email out. That won't be yet. That'll be a few weeks time, so don't worry. But we'll send. I'll
Parish council on break and all the time. So I do
But this,
this.
this is different to the parish council. This is CCP meeting. So right. I will
Parish council.
speak to you.
Can I ask something? If you go, did you say you're going to the village twice with letters?
No, yeah, it will be. So the first letter,
So, if you're going to the village twice, wouldn't it have been better to put the question about what you want the village hall to do been in the first one with these statements of facts?
Precisely.
And not in the
Hallelujah.
one where
Hallelujah.
you're trying
that we meet with all the clubs and make sure that this suits all the clubs.
No, the agenda item is that we meet with the paper, because the paper seem to think that they're not getting anything from this village hall.
And the
So,
bowls club.
sorry?
And the bowls club think the same as well.
They think the same?
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that we move a motion that we can sort with all the users and make
The
sure.
agenda item is a pay school. So
I'll move a motion.
I propose that we send an email or a letter to the pay school, to the chairwoman, chairman, woman, whoever he is or she is, I'm not sure, and the vice chair, whoever, 3 people, and 3 people from this committee, to meet with them, to actually give them the facts of what they actually are going to get, because they don't know anything else.
I agree.
I'm happy to do it. I'm speaking on behalf of the group school. That was fine. Have a meeting, and then the information that was already sent to, at the time, Mr. Moat then, can just be brought up again. Right.
Sorry?
The information that was originally already brought up to Mr. Moat at the time, they would just get reiterated.
I never ever had a written or an email
I'm
communication.
reading it.
You may read it.
I'm looking at it with your name on it.
Which-
I'm looking at it here with your name on it.
Saying what?
Thanks for your email. I'll pass it on to the CCP committee. It'd be useful to know which Ofsted minimum requirements you
Yeah, I know it's one.
I then that was replied to and with a request to have a conversation that never happened.
It's not been replied to me.
I'm looking.
Well, you might have, but there's never ever been a reply to me about that. Ever.
I'm looking at it here.
Because that was what I
We
found so
will
strange.
Maybe that email you go through, not the emails that I sent you this. So the other agenda is that we invite the play school for a meeting, so we can actually tell them what they're going to get. If they don't want it, let me finish. If they don't want it, we can remove everything from what they're going to get, which is quite substantial, onto the bill, and we can remove that, and then we can rejig it also.
If they do decide they're not happy with what we're giving them, then I think there'll be a reduction in the cost of the bill.
Exactly. So we need, with this is very
What you're suggesting here is a undemocratic removal of the preschool from the...
No.
Well, you just said, if they're not happy with this, they're not taking that, then we reduce the reduction in cost. Well, what's the reduction in cost? The only reduction in cost I can see is that wall.
Rob, have you learned that?
Separate room, smaller toilet.
Smaller toilet, separate room.
Sorry?
Have you looked at the plans?
Yes.
So does it say on the plans, play school toilet area? Does it say on the plans, play school toilet?
I don't recall, to be honest. You answer the question, but you're not interested in the answer.
On their plans,
You answer the question, but you're not interested in the
there's a
answer.
special set of toilets been put in there for the play group. Right beside that is another room for them to use for their colouring, painting.
Storage.
No, it's not.
It's
not
storage.
storage. It's not storage.
I'm going to quote you here.
I need to
No,
say
this is immaterial anyway.
Well, exactly.
One of them is in the end of the place. We're on meetings, so we can't afford this book.
I've already agreed, it'd be fine to me, because we requested this over a year ago.
We can't afford to put the things in that they require, then we're going to make...
We're not discussing it at this meeting, please. So, Chair, if you want to put your proposal forward so we can vote for it, please, because it is getting late and it is beyond the time of scale that we're supposed to hold
We had a
the
meeting with the play group and discuss what they want and what we're giving them.
Yeah.
agreed.
I can't vote, sorry.
And I've moved a motion to extend that to the Bolton as well.
No.
That should be a separate meeting, I think.
So
A separate meeting.
But even though it's not on this agenda, are we allowed to make that decision now?
I moved a motion, so you've got to vote.
I'm happy with that. Is that all right?
I just want to pay, but we do the bowls club separately.
That's what I
Yes,
said. Separate
Motion, let's do the principal and then the Bolton.
Bowls Club separately, but I think we should talk to Bowls Club, it's this time of year, really. Can I just mention one thing about the playgroup, because Rob did mention something about it. The room, there's only one room that was specifically for one group, and that is the playgroup. And nobody else has a room. I just want to make that point.
5 metres by 4 metres.
Yes.
Say again.
That's not-
Steve, I'll say again, no group, other than the playgroup, has a separate room.
I'm hearing what you say.
Yeah, okay. Can we discuss that
And
when we're meeting?
I will also say, there is no group in there that's actually got purpose-built toilets for them.
What other than sports facilities?
Right, can we vote on the agenda?
Yeah, we have done. We've done it.
So, can we just,
Right,
before
and
we
then
move on,
the motion to
who's the three people that's going to speak to them?
Okay, I would like to, please.
I'll do that.
I'm quite happy.
Yeah. So, Steve J.
Can I make a proposal? I would like to have somebody who has not had such a heavy invested interest in it, someone like Audrey or Trilene, somebody else. But Trilene's there, she's quite a well-established person in the community. Audrey's there, quite a well-established person in the community. Both people had youths growing up in the area. I would like to hear from them, as opposed to someone who's already had a very deep hand in the pot.
I would second that.
Can I just say something else about that? 3 people wanted to do it, and I don't think anybody else put their hand up. I'm reaching out. Speaking, please. Can we put hands up first who would like to meet the play school, and then that'll cut all this out? 3 people.
Do none of the women want to be involved?
Oh, we're not pushing, are we?
We
just ask a question.
I'm just looking at
3 people want to do it, that's just all.
Just to clarify everything, it's just so I'm just looking at the plans now. So
we're not discussing it. We are over time. We're over time.
Can you just finish, Robert? You've heard what I say. If what happens to you, you listen to me.
I'll listen to you all right.
So we have a preschool group and we have child's toilets.
Okay.
I've moved to Boston, Chair, so can we go do that as well? And that's for a meeting with the Boston.
Sorry?
Move the motion needs to resolve as well, and that's considered meeting with the Boston.
Should we ask again who wants to do it? It's nice and simple, it's the same 3 people. Who wants to like to be in the bowl school? Oh, we've got 3 people? Perfect. Oh, 4, sorry. Sorry, Audrey. So we'll have to work out.
Well, I can't say long before people meet.
Do that then, do that. Easy peasy.
So agenda number 9 on the agenda.
This wasn't put on as a spoof then?
Sorry?
This wasn't put on as a spoof then? Resubmit planning, but we haven't even gone out and found out if it's a yes or no, or people want it.
Okay, so on I'll put this on there, so I think we should resubmit the plan commission.
Why?
Totally the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Why? I meant just
one
one
out,
why.
Steve, because it's one out.
Okay, so we're about to ask the village if they want it.
Can we have a vote on it? If we do, would we submit it or do we not? I propose that we resubmit that plan commission.
You just said you didn't want to do a business plan because you put the cart behind the horse, and so did Mr. Moe.
I didn't ask them the public to speak.
No, you didn't, but I'm going to speak anyway because I'm in this community too. Thank you.
So the
Behave.
proposal is that we resubmit the plan commission, and if we have to amend it for whatever reason, then we can do that. I think it's important that we resubmit.
That's a cost. That is a cost.
Chairman, that is a totally insincere suggestion. If you are sincere about consulting the community, we have to go back to square one, including the yes-no question. If you resubmit the planning application, which is already, for proposals already rejected in my view by this village, then it is completely insincere. All you do is smirk and laugh and bully away.
You keep bringing up the same thing, Alan.
So you just agree.
Because
So
you might
it's
listen.
for the
I
preschool.
propose, so we take it to the vote, and we just sit all night arguing, and then you keep saying we're not last time. So I propose that we resubmit the plan commission.
You've just said you might change the plan because of the preschool pulling out.
And on this vote, I would like names recorded as to who voted which way.
Let's have a vote.
But it's illogical.
For democracy.
I'm going to propose that we...
You're laughing at the village. You're
Yes,
laughing
it's a yes
at
or no.
democracy.
It's a yes or a no. Vote. You've got to vote. Vote.
The proposal is a disgrace.
You're...
Complete. No. By
So-
any look, I honestly think that a good number of people around this.
Okay.
I think I would like to counter propose, please, that we remove that from the agenda item to a
Okay,
future
so
agenda.
I'll propose it, all of you seconded it, that we resubmit the plan commission. Can we have a vote on that? All those for yes? Those for no?
How many is that for yes and
I
no?
don't know. 3.
Sorry.
Hang on.
You put your hand up for yes or no? Because you just said no, and then you put
You
your hand
guys
up.
can for yes.
Right, you said
You
you
need to
said,
count.
you said no, and then you put your hand up yes, so.
So how many votes, let's do the vote again. How many votes to resubmit the plan commission as it is? 3.
4.
Is that 4?
Yeah. Thinking about it, because that can be changed.
Say?
I was telling you that
Okay, so you weren't
Hold on,
Can you do it again, please? Do it one more time. I'd like to record it.
Can I just make a suggestion? Yeah. Can we leave this one till next meeting?
I just proposed that and it got ignored.
Well,
I just proposed that.
look.
I just proposed that and it got ignored.
Okay, I won't say it.
I just proposed it and I got ignored. If you was to say it, you get heard. I wonder why. I just proposed that.
I didn't hear on it. I'm just losing.
Did so. And it's gone beyond the time that we were supposed to be holding meetings.
The proposal is, do we resubmit the planning commission or not? It's simple as that. And if it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, it's a
So can you
no.
raise your hands for yes?
So, raise your hands if you want that to be resubmitted. Raise your hands now, please.
I'll do it.
Those against?
Oh, one abstaining, by the way.
Sense at last.
Common sense. Thank you.
To resolve, number 10, to resolve to apply for further grant.
Again, I think this is top loading. I think we should just wait until we get the results from the, again, it's a walk and run exercise. I think we should just wait until we do the work that we've said that we're going to do. Then let's look at the grant opportunities, because those grants are not a 2-minute job. They take a lot of work, a lot of time, and part of that grant, let's make it quite clear, because I do quite a lot of grant applications. One of the things that will come out of those grant applications is, have you reached out to the wider community? And if you haven't done the thing in the first place, then you can't answer that question.
I see no issue with actually talking to people who may give us a grant to see if we're actually eligible.
That's pointless, because we haven't reached
No,
out to
that's the these things up.
Can I just step in there?
Not actually make the grant up, just phone, because you can quite often there's a phone number or something you can talk to.
No.
Well, like the grants that I've done, there are.
Okay, so I can identify some people who can grants.
Just so I can look in there now. So the planning commission run out. So without the planning commission, you won't get a grant. So that's tick that one.
Yeah. So I'll do a motion and let's do that to the
So the planning commission, we are always on time.
Right, thank you very much.
All right, the first meeting at 9:50.
When's the meeting for this?
We have the 20th of August, please.
parish council on a break, so